Key visuals are secretly killing your product. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You spend 6 months building a product and then you put this on the website. A blob, a pretty picture that says absolutely nothing. And then the sales drop because your main convincing spot sucks at delivery. People that come to your website decide whether to buy from you or not in under 2 seconds. And that blob or those kinds of visuals don't give them anything to decide on. Tab closed, okay, bye. There is a huge problem of irrelevance and abstraction in web design, and it is a problem that is losing you customers. So I made a fake product and made the same key visual 10 times. They range from total nonsense all the way to actually making the claim. There are some unexpected things though, like when can abstraction actually make sense? Let me show you. So let's make a simple plot. On the horizontal axis we'll go from abstract towards literal, and then on the vertical axis we'll go from irrelevant at the bottom to relevant to what the website is all about. And when you think about it, the best websites should be somewhere around here. But it's not only not what's actually going on, but there is also one other spot on this graph that is also good. I'm gonna show you that in a little bit. But since I have a platform that actually analyzes thousands of landing pages, I noticed that the majority of the landing pages out there fall in these two regions. This shows that most websites have almost zero relevance of their key visuals, and there is way more abstraction than literal. So we're gonna do an exercise today, and we're gonna go through 10 different versions of the same landing page, going from irrelevant towards relevant through various levels of abstraction. And then we'll put them all on a chart and explain which way to push your creative direction so it actually makes sense for both you and your clients. Because most websites right now are just losing money. But first, let's talk about how a good landing page even starts. We start by defining a clear problem that hopefully a lot of people have. Then we present a solution to that problem, but we can't say it's because of some AI magic or gold standard technology. It needs to be grounded in reality, so we need to say why and how it works. Otherwise, people won't trust that. And finally, we need to clear all the potential doubts and show a clear benefit or an incentive to actually buy a subscription or buy the product. Before we get to the key visuals, let's talk about copy. So let's talk about what is good copy structure, hierarchy, and relation. In Western culture, we have two ways to show copy on landing pages, a left-aligned one and centered one. They usually follow a certain structure with the logo being on the top left, then a small kicker that usually has some social proof in it, the main headline or H1, it can be either benefit or curiosity driven, a description that clarifies and explains, and an attention-grabbing, low-friction CTA button. And let's start with a bad example here. So I created a fake app that helps you filter notifications to only show you what you need. And if your design starts like this, then you're already ahead even though this is a pretty bad copy. What most people start with is a completely random, pointless key visual. And that visual doesn't match the text at all, it's just supposed to look nice. That is in hope that the aesthetic usability effect will actually overpower everything else that's wrong on the website. This is how websites fail, this is how businesses fail. Starting with a kicker. Anybody can say it's some kind of gold standard, it doesn't mean anything. There is no real benefit outlined in the headline. What it does, it says that you need to take control of something. So it doesn't solve a problem for you, it tells you to solve it yourself. And then in the description we have a classic AI bullshit word salad. No concrete solution, nothing explained, and a lot of the words that are completely meaningless, and they are a dead giveaway that this was written by AI. This is how you lose customers. And then the most vague, generic, non-incentive CTA button that says get started. But get started can imply that there's a lot of work for you to be done. There's no benefit and no incentive to actually get started. So on one hand, we have generic, non-convincing copy, and that already loses the user. And then most people add some vague, abstract, non-meaningful key visual, something completely random, so there's no connection between the text on the left and the visual on the right, but our brain has to process both, and then it tries to figure out whether there is a connection, so the brain works harder, and it's just less happy with the website because of that. Our brains don't want to work harder, they want to understand connections quickly. Now let's go through a better approach. Not a perfect one, because I had just minutes to come up with this, and normally these things take time, iteration, customer research, and a lot of tweaking and polishing. But what I want to show you here is like a mental model, a process that you should follow to iterate on your copy and make it good. Because you need to do that before you make any visuals. So let's look at every individual element separately here. We don't say gold standard or some random metric pulled out of the ass. Instead, we say 17,308 people are using it, and that's a number that doesn't look fake like 17,000 would. In most cases, this should be benefit driven, but in this case, I had this idea about it being curiosity driven. So you have 636 notifications coming your way every single day. So it's an assumption that it's an average number of notifications that an average internet user gets in a day. And then the claim is that out of those, you only need 5. So 631 of them are completely useless to you and are wasting your time. And almost everybody can relate to that. And this simply explains what the app actually does. So it filters the notifications and finds only the 5 or maybe just a little bit more that you really need and filters everything else out. Main action is very low friction. It says start for free, which means that you don't have to pay, you likely won't have to do a lot of complex setup. You can start using it right away to see if it's even for you. But there's also one other thing here. Our brains look for patterns everywhere, and this specific copy is very number driven. So it starts with the 17,000 number, then it has 636, and then it has 5. And our brain can connect all of that. It means that 17,000 people are getting 636 notifications each, and many of them are down to just 5. It's a kind of a logical path that our brain takes to understand what the website is about. This is a very helpful way to guide the brain. So we just keep it in that kind of number game, but it can be something else. It can be emotional connection, emotional context, or a direct benefit. But even here, if we have a key visual that doesn't match what's on the left side completely, it's gonna take much longer to process that information for your final end customers, which means many of them will just bail out of the website and not give you money. Because a good key visual should reinforce the message on the side of it. Now let's go through the examples annotated. And once again, the images are all generated to prove a point and show a thinking process. These are not complete finished websites. They're more of an example of where the entire industry is going and how to get as far away from there as possible. This is a classic landing page blob. It looks nice aesthetically, but it just makes completely no sense. And images like that are on so many landing pages right now, it's just crazy. Notice how disconnected this is from the message, because these things around the nucleus in the middle look like they're attacking. There is nothing about peace of mind from notifications here. It looks like a disease. And what are these elements around it? Are there cells, atoms, blood particles, lava, a thread? So there is no substance here, it's just a random pretty image that makes absolutely no sense, and it makes our brains work harder to try to find that sense. So on our plot, it's gonna be right here. It's completely meaningless, so very abstract, and completely irrelevant to the copy. Okay, now let's go tackle this one. Once again, the character in this case has zero connection to being overwhelmed by notifications. It's just a person standing there. The image outlines a destination like a hero journey, but it has absolutely no meaning to notifications and filtering. So once again, there is no substance and no connection. Just a random pretty image that's supposed to take the attention away, but it doesn't connect in any way. It doesn't strengthen the message. So on our plot, it will be right around here. It's still completely irrelevant, but this time it's not abstract. It is a literal image of something. That something just doesn't have any meaning connected to the claim. Now let's talk about these beautiful bubbles on the side of the copy. And let's imagine they're also beautifully animated. Now, this is abstract, but it shows a lot of elements or particles, so that might mean or connect somewhat to the 636 number. But when you look at the white space, nothing is actually being filtered here. It just shows potentially the problem in a very abstract way. So on our plot, it will be right here. It is slightly less abstract and a tiny bit more relevant. But this still doesn't deliver clarity. This is one of my favorite examples. Everybody loves isometry, but the problem with this and a lot of these images is that they make absolutely no sense. They do look like a lot of work went into them, like it's a serious web heading image. And so smart that the designer definitely knew what they were doing. Or did they? Because this shows everything is connected, so it's kind of like the opposite of what the app is about. But there is nothing to decipher here. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just supposed to be like a generic isometric image, and forget about it. Don't try to find the meaning here. Which means that these kind of images actually lower conversion, because they just make it harder for the user to understand the benefit. This one goes here. It's still really irrelevant, and it's a little bit less literal than the image with the girl in the anime background. But it's just as empty. It doesn't mean anything regarding strengthening the message of the website. Now we're getting somewhere when it comes to abstraction. This is a lot better than the previous abstract images, because there is a clear metaphor of some center point being overwhelmed from every direction. So lots of little objects attacking the center, like over 600 notifications. But once again, nothing was filtered. This is empty inside. So what, no notifications get through? And while our brains try to decipher all that and how it connects in the background without us consciously knowing about it, they get frustrated. But this one goes here. It's still really abstract, but it's a lot more relevant now. It's not super relevant, but your brain can somewhat make a connection to what it means. Now, on the same level, on the other spectrum, we have this. This is a super literal depiction, a lot of notifications on your phone, swarming in from all sides. But this only shows the problem, there is no solution. So it's like it only illustrates the first sentence of the headline and nothing else. It is somewhat relevant, but not very relevant because it's not super clear, and it's definitely very literal. This kind of approach is what we do for our clients at SquareBlock, and this is all the stuff that I'm also sharing inside the SquareBlock blueprint. Either provide value and get return customers, or you make pretty pictures and lose money. Links in the description. Now the abstraction is starting to take shape. It looks like a funnel that's kind of stopping or filtering a massive number of things, maybe even 600 of them. Now, 5 of them seem to have gotten through, so it is connected to the claim, but they're not highlighted in any way, so they look just like the rest. Because it seems that many of the other ones are almost getting through as well. And while you might not consciously think about it, your brain actually does process all that. So this abstraction is actually slightly more relevant. Now let's look at the opposite end. This one literally shows some notifications that got through, but only 3 of them? It says 5, and there seems to be a lot of other notifications sort of hiding in the background. But there is no direct payoff or benefit shown to the user here. It just shows that it filtered something. So this is definitely more relevant and more literal. Kind of boring too, but definitely more relevant. Now, this shows that an abstraction can actually fully work. It shows a lot of notifications blocked by an invisible wall and only 5 getting through. This clearly illustrates that abstraction is not your enemy. It can work just fine if it's relevant. So it goes on top of the list. It is very relevant to the copy, it is abstract and even slightly literal because it shows the numbers. Now this is what I believe is going to make a great comeback in the age of AI, because it has an outcome and an emotional connection with a person, and it shows a direct benefit that you can actually relax and read a book. Your phone is not constantly bugging you, it's just there on the table, but it shows literally 5 notifications. And while this might not work for all businesses, in general we react very well to seeing other people doing something, because we can then aspire to be like them. So this is both very relevant and extremely literal. It definitely shows exactly what the copy says here. The problem with landing pages now is that people don't even take the time to actually make meaningful key visuals. And that costs their customers money, that makes the entire landing page building industry become a bit of a joke when it comes to design, and that makes a lot of long-term problems. Designers should be strategically thinking about the bottom line of the client and how they can improve further to get repeat work, not to just quickly deliver some AI-generated BS visual that makes no sense. In the age of slop and low effort, I really think that people who understand all that are the ones that gonna make it. It's about making both the key visual and the copy meaningful and reinforcing each other. That strengthens the message, and that's exactly why the key visual even exists. And those kinds of websites will win over the generic generative abstractions that everybody seems to be obsessing over right now. These websites don't work. And this is also the reason why a lot of customers now come to us at SquareBlack for deslopification, removing that AI feel, the abstraction and the irrelevance from the key visuals and the copy. It all has to work together, otherwise it just doesn't make sense. And that problem of abstraction and irrelevance is growing. So what are you gonna do about it? Let me know in the comments, and obviously have a beautiful day.